All right, ladies and gentlemen, back with Two Men in Black and White, an honest conversation. Let's have one today. The fallout from the Charlie Kirk murder continues. The suspect is now charged with aggravated murder. There was a very detailed press conference that happened earlier today. Brock, we're learning more about the suspect. Brock and Ellis joins me now from the Hudson River Valley, beautiful Hudson River Valley, right outside New York City. Brock, we're learning more about the suspect and what his possible, and I air quote everything now, his possible motivation. We don't know. His mother says he became more left, moved to the left politically, became more concerned about trans and gay rights. And so what, Brock? I say, so what? Then again, we don't know what's true. We don't know what this kid is saying because you don't know what you can believe anymore. What say you?
Yeah, we don't know. We're still living in the, kind of the uncertainty of it. We are living in the skepticism of the moment because we can't trust what gets leaked out information wise and the timing of it and how it's already, positioned for a political purpose before the information's even delivered to us, right? Because over this 4 days, information has been, odd, right, in how it's come out, but it's all been utilized to play, to the Project 2025 playbook of a more aggressive lockdown of speech to political parties. To today, it was blue sky, supposedly that, a cry for blue sky to be shut down. It's a power play, right? I just look at everything under the scope of what's the power play? What would Trump want out of this situation? And then how are his, minions playing it out in order to position
Yeah.
the message to his benefit? And I can't look at anything any other way.
Right. And again, this is all about the Epstein files. I saw a fantastic meme that said, here's to Charlie Kirk, for making people forget that I raped a bunch of children. And that's all, but it's all this comes down to, bro, is the Epstein files. Because this individual, and I don't agree with the way that this man lost his life, right? Gun violence is unacceptable in any shape, form, or fashion. We're the only country, Brock, that does nothing about gun violence, and it matters not who is the victim. We watched 20 kids and 6 teachers get mowed down with an AR-15 in Newtown and did nothing. We said thoughts and prayers. Those families went to Congress and looked them in the face. And I remember watching 60 Minutes as those lawmakers from Connecticut walked right by those families and refused to stop and talk to them. And all they wanted was something done about gun rights. Guns have more rights in this country than women. Guns will soon be getting mortgages. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Gun control doesn't even come up, right? In this scenario, the shooting happened and it wasn't even in the discussion, right? Because of the current regime in place, right? We have an extremely, pro Second Amendment. So gun control doesn't come into play. So we don't talk about solving or avoiding the next incident, right? We almost more just talk about what do we think the next incident's going to be? What's it most likely to be? Not how are we going to prevent it? So, we've punted on that issue. What I worry about, like you look at the deflection on the Epstein files and how, Trump's just trying to run out the clock on that and get everyone to forget about it, right? And to get Kash Patel to go in front of Senate and say that there is no list, right? They have no information on anyone except for Epstein and Maxwell, assaulting any of the women, even though the women have just stood around telling you that that's an absolute lie. So like absolute perjury from Kash Patel. So that's the head of the FBI. And I'm just really watching and concerned about all the rhetoric about all the rights that need to be taken away from political opponents of Trump because we're all deemed now too dangerous, right? Like First Amendment rights, just rights across the board. And to me, that's what the Project 2025 initiative is all about. Yeah. Charlie Kirk is just becomes just, just another pawn in that game of authoritarian state moving away from elections, pressing dissent in this country. That's the real concern.
Absolutely. And while they try to basically ascend him to martyrdom, like you said, he's just a pawn. He's just a reference point for Project 2025 to say, see, this is why the crazy left shouldn't have these rights, because they're out here murdering people. They're using their Second Amendment right to murder individuals who disagree with them. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. Right? I mean, we go back to Charleston. We can go back to the kidnapping plot of Gretchen Whitmer. We can go back to January. None of these were people on the left. Those Minnesota riots and all of Antifa that was supposed to be in there. That wasn't from the left. I mean, look, when we see this, we know where it's coming from. What did Christopher Wray say? The biggest threat right now in America is the domestic terror threat from white men.
Apparently, that study has now been scrubbed from the FBI, so we're not going to be hearing about that study anymore. Pam Bondi made that call apparently from the top. So, I'm glad you're still referencing it, but they're just trying to bury that and deliver America a false narrative, right? I mean, we're in a propaganda war. And then the media is an epic fail. The fact that across the board, people are getting fired left and right if they didn't show enough remorse about Charlie Kirk, when really the majority of the country did not care that he is gone and didn't know him. When they learned about him, they were appalled by him, clearly viewed him as a divisive and negative figure in America. And, he's gone. But if you say that in a lot of forums, you're either fired, and certainly the mainstream media is positioning nothing in that vein. The NFL games are having moments of silence. Schools are having moments of silence. Like, there's all this, over, in essence, over emotion about, in essence, a neo-Nazi being killed by what may have been another neo-Nazi, but, maybe not, but certainly not some leftist.
No, he definitely wasn't on the left-hand side of the aisle. And the interesting thing to me is about why we're trying to sanitize and scrub this man's life. Like, you use his own words were hateful and divisive. I mean, did you see some of the quotes and some of the things he said about George Floyd? Right? I mean, think back to the things that he said about George Floyd, a man who we watched die live on television. We watched that man call for his mother with his last dying breath, and Charlie Kirk skewered him. As a matter of fact, he called him a scumbag. It's a direct quote. And now we're trying to sanitize it and say that this man deserves our respect and our sympathy and empathy. But he didn't have empathy for those who didn't look like him or think like him. With his last breath, Brock, he was blaming gang violence for the gun violence in America. And I'll tell you something else. Black preachers took to the pulpit over the weekend and gave some rousing messages. If you had, check out the Howard Dorsey Miller from the Alfred Street Baptist Church in Virginia. Swore he was going to get in trouble for his sermon. But he let you know, his message was, I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed with people who hate me, trying to tell me who I should feel sorry for. What? You're trying to tell me I should feel sorry for my oppressor, right? It's almost like a slave master message, right? Yes, he hated you. Yes, he tried to, basically extort you and get whatever he could out of you for little or nothing, because he saw you as 3/5 of a man. And now I want you to pray for him and pray for his family. And I do pray, I do wish the best for his wife and his children. However, his wife is parroting his words and calling, almost, it seems, for more violence with the statements that she's released. So we've got the wrong leaders for the wrong moment in history, because we don't have anyone that's trying to tamp down the violence. We don't have anyone calling for calm. We don't have anyone calling for Black, white, Hispanic, left, right leaders to come together in some sort of forum We are no longer that shining star on the hill. We are far from that shining star on the hill. And the best example we have is the loss of that $4 billion project in Georgia. That sums up who we are. And this violence also sums up the fact that there is no moral compass in this country. There is no magnetic north.
Country's led by a fucking lunatic.
Well, true that.
Look at Trump's last 24 hours also. Right? He didn't go to Charlie Kirk Memorial. He went and played golf, right? So he's a fucking fraud, even on his own side. But they don't care. They'll look the other way. They'll be mad that that black pastor isn't showing enough deference and respect for Charlie Kirk's death. But they won't say a fucking word about the fact that Trump went and played golf and didn't attend the memorial, right?
Right.
And talked about his ballroom as soon as when he was asked about how he felt about Charlie Kirk's passing, right? But then since then, we've bombed another boat in the Caribbean where we have no idea who's really on these boats, right? Like there's no talk about due process, right? There's no clear mandate. It's a war violation, right? There aren't other countries. China's not out just fucking sinking boats
people
in the the Strait of Taiwan, right?
Right.
But
right.
They could start now and just say, hey, that's a terrorist boat from Taiwan out there
right.
in the waters, right? So we've lost, we don't establish any rule of law anywhere. Then Trump berated John Carl, who asked him a few questions as he was getting on a helicopter. And he was like, oh, well, maybe we need to go after you, right? Immediate veiled threat. Right. Then he threatened the entire country of Australia because one of their reporters asked him about, the fact that his family was making so much money off of the presidency. And he kind of did a shakedown that, Australia's trying to be friendly to me. I have to talk to them about you, right? So now it's just unabashed. Any criticism means that, it's classic. You're an enemy of the state. Right. We're just in authoritarian playbook, warfare right now. And the smart people behind Trump who want a white supremacist nation, he's just being played like a lunatic fiddle right now.
Fiddle, right. He's being played like Lotto. And you think he doesn't care because
he doesn't care. Money. He doesn't realize, he doesn't think about it that way.
Yeah, he's looking at is his bank account. How much money am I getting? How much money can I make, on the next deal, the next fraudulent deal where he uses his government as his personal piggy bank. I mean, it is disgusting. How does he accumulate 40% of his wealth? 40% of his wealth for an 80-year-old man has been accumulated the first 7 months of his presidency.
It's got to be more than that. I mean, the billions that just came in from, I think it was United Arab Emirates or Qatar, which, there was an article in the Times about. But now Trump turns around and sues the New York Times for $15 million and names a bunch of writers for the Times because he didn't like a story that they wrote.
Right.
So as he was bragging about the fact that he got a $15 million payout from CBS because they did a story he didn't like. So he's literally going around just as it's an extortion ring. Right. The American presidency is now just an extortion ring where Trump runs around, threatens, and corporate America cowers and writes checks just to get through the day. And the other institutions that want to stay out of harm's way, like the Washington Post, fire their black writers because they don't want them, saying anything that can upset the Mad King. So, America, corporate America tiptoeing around the Mad King while Project 2025 engineers an authoritarian takeover with more ICE troops, more raids on more cities, and more talk about taking away the rights of people, quote, on the left, because now we're the danger, right? We're we're probably at 340 million people, right? At the least 170 million of us are the problem. Right.
Brock, but I thought 300 million of us died from drugs last year.
I wasn't even going to go down that road with the absurd math. Yeah, the 300 million that have died.
Just ridiculous. Which lets the poor state of his mental acuity. I mean, he has literally just sludge for brain power. again, the lunacy seems to creep through. The evil seems to creep through. How do you have a lawsuit alleging that the head of the FBI told an employee whose wife was dying because he investigated Trump and did his job and followed through like he was supposed to, you're now fired. And they ask you, well, give him some time because his wife is dying, and you say no. It's all about the evil, bro. It's all about the punishment. It's all about the get back. It's all petty. This is the king of the Mad King is the king of petty.
Yeah, and the sweeping people out of government and or influence, positions of influence, who aren't absolute loyalists, right?
Right.
So this whole underneath all of this is the hiring of loyalists and the pushing out of people who care about America, the old version and not the Trump-led version.
Right.
So this is the slow creep that's going on every day. It's just getting worse. I mean, Trump's lunacy is just more apparent the more times he's in front of a microphone. So he was playing golf for a few days. He wasn't in front of a microphone. He gets back in front of it. And today was a day of full lunacy and craziness, right? He also went after Ilhan Omar, right? I mean, he wants her dead, right? He would love her to get shot in the way that Charlie Kirk did, right? He just picked her out today as a target.
A target, right.
It'll be someone else tomorrow, and he'll just, the list is long, right? He's got thousands of them. It's a huge problem, but we can't, but well, let's get back to topic A from January. Like, what are we doing about it?
Right.
Who's the leadership? What's the message? And where's the unity?
Right. And who is going to be the person to do it, bruh? Or the persons, and it seems like once they got some momentum, because what happened to AOC and Bernie and their, parade through the country, with some good messaging remember the crowds they were getting, bro?
Great messaging. Great messaging. Because they're on the oligarchs' message.
Right.
And none of that has changed, right? The cost of living goes up every day. Groceries just keep going up. I mean, the economic health of almost all Americans is in decline. So that message is so simple. The kitchen table message is simple. People are just hurting.
And hold it. It's going to get worse the first of the year when these healthcare hikes on your premiums kick in, when they go up by 50, 75%. People are going to start choosing between medication and food because it's going to be so expensive, or they're going to go without. And hospitals are going to close. I mean, look, when you say economic health, I mean, we are in big trouble. The middle class in America, if it still exists after this lunatic, I can't imagine we don't get into a depression in the next year.
It's gutted. The middle class is gutted. Yeah, I mean, Kroger's laying people off. I mean, the layoffs are creeping up. Unemployment is increasing. The ability to find a job has gotten harder and harder, so no one's moving around, and we're just, right now still just in a, kind of an incremental slow decline, but prices are going up. So the economic message, you're right, was great. To me, the message has gotten easier and easier because it's now just gotten down to a survival message, right? How are we going to survive? We're not even talking about a thriving America anymore, right? We're talking about now, how are we as citizens going to survive this authoritarian crackdown? And, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to rally together to push back against it? Are we the majority? We think we're the majority. Are we the majority? I mean, there's a No King's Day on October 24th. I mean, it has to be so massive in terms of the turnout that it has to be something like America's never seen before in terms of a nationwide protest. We still would prefer if everybody shoehorned into D.C. and shut down the city. But okay, we'll go with their plan. It has to be a massive nationwide shutdown. And I hear people say, protests without boycotts don't work. Right. So I think the argument for, in essence, a buyer's strike across the country to hurt the economy, is smart and makes sense to go hand in hand with the protesting.
Yep. I mean, we've got to figure out some targets to boycott that make them really feel it, especially the elitists and the one percenters. Um, the Target boycott worked incredibly well. Black folks spending $12 million a day in that joint, and then all of a sudden they stopped. And the Walmart boycott, I don't see the kind of but see, Brock, again, it comes down to prices, right? Like you
People
got to
can't
go
boycott Walmart. People can't boycott Walmart. It's like the only store in town in
right.
so many parts of the country. Like they can't even get food anywhere else. It's like the only grocery store. So they're gonna have to go to Walmart and live with it because they don't even have it options.
Especially
Target,
in the rural area.
upscale. Target's more upscale, right? You have other places you can go. It's rare. It's never the only store
Choice.
in
Right.
town.
Right.
So I mean, there's talk, some people argue, I got to read a little more on it. Like it's just a natural, like days where people just spend money on nothing.
Right.
Like, let it go to zero. Let stores
Let
everywhere just be
feel it.
empty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let it be a shock and let it be something that becomes the story
Right.
because it has to be the story. It has to be the story. It has to drop on Trump's lap. He has to try to babble and bungle his way to some response.
Right.
It embarrasses him. It shows his incompetence and his lunacy. And maybe only through that does it wake up more and more Americans that we just can't let this guy continue to drive the car. Like
Right. Right. Well,
we're
Trump's got
speeding to a cliff.
he's got a trip planned to Europe,
Yeah, I think
and
he's on his way right now. He's going to the UK.
and apparently Channel 4 there is about to run, I think, a 30-minute segment of nothing but untruths that Trump has unleashed. So, look, the European press is a totally different animal. They're not going to suppress anything. They tell it all. They do the tabloid style, they don't care, and they're going to tell it all. So, I think it'll be very interesting to see if that video makes it over here. Because I'd like to see
Who would show it? What
who's going to
station would
run it.
have the balls to show it? That's the problem.
Exactly. Exactly. I want to see who's got the balls to show it.
No one here, no. I mean, the media here, first of all, it's becoming more and more right wing and more concentrated ownership. I don't see anyone that would show it. The Brits will take their shots at him. Trump won't care. He won't read it. His people will isolate him from it. He'll go to a couple state dinners. They'll try to treat him nicely because they don't want him to fuck up their economy. So they kind of just want to get through the 48 hours, right? Without,
Right.
some international spectacle going on that hurts their
Right.
economy. They got enough problems in the UK, right?
Right.
Like to deal with internally. So they're just trying to stay on our good side. So this is where royalty matters, right? They troop out the royal family has to take the hit for the country and spend time with Trump. Yeah, that's their job. That's what they get paid to do ultimately. They got to make him feel like he's a king, right? King
Right.
Charles has to make Trump feel like he's royalty.
Right. Which is ridiculous. Tell me something. How long is Kash Patel for this world? After his horrible performance on the Hill today at the Senate Oversight Committee, I mean, he was just awful. Do you think he lasts, or do you think his knowledge of what's in the Epstein files protects him?
I didn't think of that angle until you mentioned it yesterday. It is interesting how robust he was on that topic today in terms of like gaslighting us.
Right.
And bullshitting us and lying to us. So he was lying for his job today.
Right.
Apparently Pam Bondi hates him. And I think Pam Bondi is Trump's number one. So if Bondi wants him out, he's going to be out. And I guess they've looped in a new guy as like a co-deputy director next to Bongino. So it sounds like they've moved someone into position who could take over pretty easily. So if I had to bet, I would say that Kash Patel will not last the year, but they will find something else for him to do for your reasons.
Yep. Yeah. I think they'll want to be cash friendly, but this guy is just, living the life. He's flying all over the place, using private planes and whatnot, on our dime. This guy dining out at nothing but the finest restaurants. Meanwhile, he has little to no idea what the fuck is going on at the FBI. He has no idea how to run the joint. Guy was literally a podcaster, and the next day he became the head of the FBI. I mean, Again, the death of expertise. We can just point all the lack of experts. I mean, what is Linda McMahon doing in the
Yeah,
second?
I mean,
She
but that's
just got rid of $350 million of HBCU college grants. What are they going to do now? Shut down HBCUs? Are they so afraid of Black America that you don't
maybe,
want them educated?
maybe, yeah, maybe not shut them down, but starve them to death.
They're definitely trying.
Yeah, they're trying. I mean, her job was to, in essence, dismantle that department. So yeah, she's stripping it out, and the money's just going to like charter schools and the wealthy, and public schools and HBCUs are just going to be left out there to starve.
Right.
And Kash Patel's job is just to support Trump's effort and only go after, those deemed rivals. It's probably a good time to be like just a random criminal in America, especially if you're donating to right-wing causes, because even if you get caught, you're going to be let go. I mean, it's a kleptocracy. The country's a shit show right now. Like, we can't sugarcoat it anymore. Like, we're coming to the end of September, 9 months of this. I mean, it's been a massive decline.
Dude,
It's a massive decline. There's
it
no way
feels like 9
the
years.
country, there's 4 years of this. Like, we'll be Venezuela.
Right. It feels like 9 years. Fucking 9 months. I mean, everybody's waking up saying, what did this guy do today? Like, how do we go through life like that? Like, this is supposed to be the place everybody wants to be. I watched a video the other day, Brock, on the most important documents you need to have if you need to leave the country in a hurry. And the video had like 100,000 views. I mean, it wasn't some one-off video. If you go to YouTube and look at Americans are running off everywhere. They're packing up and getting the fuck out of here.
Wish there were more YouTubes and more big events with people talking about what can we do to win this fight.
Right.
It gets us back to the confidence issue I think we talked about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Who's going to
Yep.
instill confidence in sane America,
Right.
sane multiracial, multicultural America? To
Right.
say, hey, we can win this fight. It's not a foregone conclusion that this is going to become a white supremacy, anti-democratic, authoritarian country.
Right.
Can be defeated. Because right now it appears as though we are going to become a white supremacist, authoritarian, anti-democratic country. So how do we counter-message that?
Well, and here's just a thought. Are we so beat down that we feel like we can't win at any turn? We can't win in the courts, or we're winning in the courts sporadically. You can't go to the highest office in the land. You can't go to the highest court in the land. You can't go to the House. You can't go to law enforcement. You can't go to the military. Are we just so beat down because everywhere we turn and they're not even smart. It would be one thing if they were smart. They literally stole an election. Eric Trump was talking about it today, and the left wonders why we won all 7 swing states. You didn't fucking win all 7 swing states. You didn't win the popular vote. The only reason you won is because you had the Doji boys and the Elon bros hacking shit and fucking with the election. That's the only way they won. You can't tell me that they won every single swing state. Nobody likes Donald Trump that much. No one. It ain't possible.
The question in there was, I think, to go back to it, was that, do I think that we're so beaten down because everywhere you turn,
Yes.
it looks like you kind of stonewalled? And I think the answer to that right now is yes. I'm looking for a re-energization moment. Maybe the No Kings rallies bring people out to pump each other up again. We really need the Black community because you guys bring the fire and the energy and the knowledge. If you just had a protest with abandon against what seemed to be impossible odds, I worry white America just right now, we don't have it in us, except for the middle America, wackos who are MAGA, but are getting screwed and getting, and kind of turning on MAGA a little bit, but they can't be leaders of sane white America because we just think that they're crazy. And we just look at them and say, well, they're just mad now because they're getting screwed, right? They don't actually give a shit about anybody else, right? They're ultra selfishly motivated.
Right.
So we need the Black and Latino community to just light that fire in the white community. We're the numbers, right? We're the big numbers, but we're not the energy.
Right.
And I think we're not the strength. We're
I
not the fire.
I hear you. And yeah, it's frustrating, that we just can't get past whatever it is that's holding us back to come out here and fight for the democracy, right? To skip a soccer game, dedicate a Saturday afternoon to get off the couch, stop watching college football, and come out here and fight for the democracy. One weekend, let's give up the NFL. Fuck the NFL anyway. Why are we supporting that league?
NFL's a fucking fraud. It's a
It's
racist
a fucking
organization.
right. And racism, you're going to put that in your end zone and then
Bullshit.
ask for a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk? Are you fucking stupid?
What a fucking embarrassment to the players, right? But they can't say anything, otherwise they'll get
Can't
cut
say
right
that
away
thing.
with their like non-guaranteed contracts, right?
Like your
And they're so
Kaepernick.
conditioned to just like the team, stay focused, right? What an embarrassment to like a league of like 70% black players to have to give a moment of silence to Charlie Kirk.
Right.
Come on,
Unbelievable.
it's a fucking joke.
No,
So who's
absolutely.
going to do it? Where's it going to come from? I don't know. Let's get ourselves live. Let's get ourselves live and see if anyone
do it.
actually comes on and like comes in the chat room and shoots some of their frustration and angers with us. I think
We're
it's
gonna have to
time
do
for
it.
that. Who knows? Maybe we can at least start like a brush fire over here, and maybe there's just got to be a million brush fires. And then, and if a ton of people, do small scale events somewhere along the way, we'll meet up. Or maybe when we do the No Kings rallies, they have a little more fire to them because people have
We need.
pre-gamed, right? It's like going to that big party, right? You pre-game at home, get a few drinks in you, so that by the time you hit the party
Right.
with the big crowd, you're all
Ready to
amped
go.
up, ready to hit that dance floor, right?
No
So maybe
doubt.
we got to have a bunch of pre-parties where people like amongst themselves get themselves jacked up a little bit, so that when we hit the streets, there's just more pizzazz, more anger, more
Gusto. Yeah.
strength, more power in the end.
Why are we not pissed off? Maybe that's our question for tomorrow.
I think people are pissed off. I think I just think there's too many people that just don't know what to do with it, or they need to be shown what they can do with it.
Right.
Well, how do you channel? Maybe it's more a message of how do we channel all this anger? That's what the other side's better at doing, right? They fucking manufacture anger, but it's really channeled. It's channeled
Yes.
for Second Amendment. It's channeled for racism. It's channeled for all kinds of shit. Right
No
now,
doubt.
it's channeled to beat us down. Right? It was channeled to take over America. Like they fake their anger, but it gets them all in line and they get shit done. So we got to talk about how we're going to channel our anger, because there's no doubt that the anger is brewing up. I
It's
see
huge.
it almost everyone I speak to, but no one's like really doing anything.
Right. Right.
Let's try it.
All right, bro. Quick hit. You got one?
I don't have one. I was going to come and talk to you about if you'd seen that pastor who gave that great speech about Charlie Kirk, but you referenced it already.
Yes, I did.
Because it was really a good point about like, if people want to be, kind of honored in their death, then perhaps they should live a better life.
Yeah.
Seemed
Live a
like
life that's honorable.
Yeah. It was
Live
pretty,
a dishonorable life and expect us to say nice things about you when you're gone.
yeah. It was a pretty good message. I'm sure it came off controversial, but it was logical, and it kind of
Level-headed.
hit the way I felt, right? It resonated with me because that's how I felt. It's like, come on, don't, you're an asshole in life, but now you're supposedly, we got to whitewash you and honor you in death. It's like, come on, live better. Like
Nope.
that's
Wrong time for that. And then the comparison with Dr. King was just obnoxious. I mean, we talked about that yesterday for a moment, and I think it's an insult to the Black community and to the entire civil rights movement and to everyone who sacrificed their lives, their bloody foreheads, their dog bites, their water hosed bodies. It's an insult to everyone who participated in the civil rights movement for a better, more fair, more just America, to compare this fucking guy to Dr. King. I stood up in my first, second, third, and fourth grade classes with presentations about Dr. King. And my parents had a scrapbook because that's how much he meant to the African American experience. And I would present and read points in the scrapbook in my production. You know what our classes look like. maybe me and one other African American in the class. And my parents sent me to school every year with the scrapbook and a presentation for my class. And all my teachers let me do it. So I don't think I'm going to have my grandbabies will not have a scrapbook of Charlie Kirk, because his life will not be indicative of the kind of America that we'd all like to share in and all like to have.
And hopefully they go to a school where they'd be allowed to give that presentation, because a hell of a lot of schools that right now will not allow it. We're stripping away mentions of slavery in our national parks, right?
You see that?
Yeah, I mean,
and Brock, Black America, we built this shit for free. For free. Who did the work? For free. And then you talk about reparations. I interviewed George Bush, and then I'll let you go. Back during the hanging Chad election in 2000. George Bush versus Al Gore, Bush v. Gore. Hey, Mr. Bush, what do you think about reparations if you were to become president? Could we at least have some conversations about it? Reparations had reared its ugly head back then. It was a timely question. Where's the money going to come from? Where are we going to get the money? Where do we get the billions of dollars we just gave out for COVID and PPP, right? How much
we're paying billions to build a fucking ballroom. Come on, the money, we're spending billions to change the name to the Department of War from the Defense Department. Come on, the shit we spend fucking billions on. White America's got a problem with Black America. You come out with us, you save the democracy of this country. We're going to have some fucking reparations, some DEI. We're going to have a fucking laundry list of shit that we're going to do if you fucking help us save this democracy. You built it. We fucked you. We need you to save it. Come on out on the streets with us, please.
Bottom line, I'm there. I'm in the streets. I'm ready. All right, my friend, we've outstayed our welcome.
If we think we did, imagine what the viewers think. All right, man. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Always a pleasure. Peace.